What if I told you that a single explosion, thousands of miles away from the front lines, shattered the illusion of Russia's invincibility? For years, the Kremlin has painted itself as an unstoppable war machine, armed with endless missiles and artillery, crushing anyone who dares oppose it. But that story is unraveling fast. The truth? Russia's war effort depends heavily on allies like North Korea, and now, one of the vital supply routes linking these two powers has been cut off. Ukraine just sent a powerful message over 4,000 miles deep inside Russian territory. On November 14, news broke of a massive blast near Sosnovka, a remote settlement in Russia's Khabarovsk region. This place is so far east, it's nearly impossible for Ukraine's best drones or missiles to reach it. So how did this happen? The answer lies in a daring sabotage mission, masterminded by Ukraine's intelligence agency, known as HUR. The explosion wasn't just a loud bang, it derailed a freight train on the legendary Trans-Siberian Railway, halting cargo traffic and causing a massive logistical nightmare for Russia. You might think a delayed train is no big deal. But this isn't about commuter delays. The Trans-Siberian Railway is Russia's lifeline, carrying crucial supplies, especially weapons from North Korea, that fuel Putin's war machine. When that line is blocked, it's like cutting off the heart of Russia's military supply chain. HUR's statement was clear: this attack targeted a key artery supplying the Kremlin's forces with arms from the DPRK. They didn't hold back in mocking Russia's failure to protect such critical infrastructure. If Russia is truly a military giant, how could it let this happen? Ukraine just exposed a glaring weakness, one that Putin's regime desperately wants to hide. Details about the operation remain scarce, but footage released by Euromaidan Press shows the scale of the Trans-Siberian Railway and hints at the meticulous planning behind the strike. Explosives were quietly placed on an unguarded section of track, and the damage was swift and devastating. Now, Russia faces not only a derailed train but the chilling reality that Ukrainian operatives are deeper inside its territory than anyone expected. This isn't a one-time event. HUR warned that these strikes will continue, aiming to dismantle Russia's entire logistical network piece by piece. Just days later, another attack hit Russian-controlled railways inside occupied Ukraine, proving that nowhere is safe from Ukraine's reach. These coordinated strikes are part of a growing pattern, a relentless campaign to cripple the Kremlin's ability to move troops and weapons. The Trans-Siberian Railway isn't just any rail line, it's the world's longest, stretching over 5,700 miles. It's been the backbone of Russian logistics for over a century, carrying millions of tons of cargo every year. Putin himself invested billions to modernize it, hoping to boost Siberia's development and secure his military supply routes. But now, that lifeline is under siege. The explosion near Sosnovka could cost Russia millions, not just in delayed goods but in lost military advantage. This strike is a game-changer, revealing cracks in Russia's armor and showing the world that even the most remote corners of the country are vulnerable. What happens next? Will Russia finally face the consequences of its overconfidence? Or will Ukraine's sabotage campaign continue to unravel the Kremlin's war machine, one rail line at a time? The answer is unfolding, and it's a story that's far from over. But why are these freight trains so crucial to Russia's survival? Imagine rough hands gripping cold iron rails under a vast, starlit sky, where every clang of metal and rumble of wheels echoes the heartbeat of a war machine. You see, these cargo trains plunge through Siberia's icy winds, carrying not just goods, but the very weapons fueling Vladimir Putin's assault on Ukraine, supplied directly from North Korea. HUR, Ukraine's intelligence directorate, blasted their telegram announcement loud and clear. On November 13, a deafening blast tore through the night near Sosnovka in Russia's Khabarovsk region. Dense smoke choked the air, blocking the vital Trans-Siberian Railway, a lifeline for Russia's aggressive supply chains, especially those armaments sourced from the DPRK. In their statement, HUR declared this a crippling blow to the aggressor's key artery. They didn't stop there. HUR sneered at the Kremlin's hapless security, pointing out how Russia's special forces utterly failed to safeguard this critical infrastructure. Why can't a so-called military powerhouse protect its own backbone? Ukraine mocked the invaders, revealing Russia's exposed underbelly in a humiliating twist. Beyond the telegram's taunt, few details emerged. Yet, a video from Euromaidan Press caught glimpses of the preparation, moments of tense silence, the sticky feel of explosives clinging to tracks, the earth trembling as Ukraine's operatives lurked in shadows. Did you feel that chill? It showcased the railway's sprawling might, and how long Ukraine's eyes had peered into it. Explosives clung like shadows to unguarded rails. One swift strike, and boom, the line shattered. Now, Russia staggers with a derailed freight, the acrid scent of gunpowder lingering, and the terrifying realization that Ukrainian saboteurs roamed deeper into their heartland than anyone dared imagine. Putin and his circle cringe in shock. How did Ukraine penetrate so far? This isn't just sabotage, it's a dagger plunged into chaos, exposing Russia's futility. Still, you wonder, could operatives just place charges and vanish? Follow the tracks to uncover the full dread. What secret lurked in that deep Siberian night that Russia still can't shield? Ukraine's daring operatives have struck deep into Russian territory, derailing a train on the vital Trans-Siberian line. The explosion near Sosnovka exposed gaping holes in Moscow's defenses. Ukraine's intelligence agency, known as HUR, boasted about targeting critical supply routes for weapons from North Korea. This was no isolated incident. Can Ukraine truly dismantle Russia's war machine from within? Imagine the deafening roar of explosives shattering the silence of a desolate Siberian night, the acrid smell of gunpowder lingering in the frost. Could a force like Russia, so vast and seemingly invincible, be vulnerable to seemingly simple sabotage? HUR declared their mission ongoing, warning Putin that logistical nightmares are just beginning. Whispers of deeper infiltration echoed in the cold winds, operative shadows blending into unguarded tracks, the tactile grip of explosives on frozen railway ties. What if Ukraine isn't stopping? What if these saboteurs are setting the stage for Russia's total collapse? Tension mounts as figures in Moscow pace, grasping at freight threads of control. In that uneasy calm following the blast, Ukraine unleashed another blow, proving no rail artery is beyond reach. Just 2 days after the November 13 explosion, saboteurs matched the intensity with fire and fury. Artillery echoed from the front lines, 50 kilometers away, as flames engulfed a relay cabinet in Zaporizhia's Melitopol district. The partisan group Arteche, loyal to Ukraine, halted Russian military trains, their tracks now smoldering ruins. Feel the blistering heat against chilled skin. The crackle of flames devouring metal junctions, a bitter stench of burning oil filling the air. Why does Russia parade as an unstoppable giant, yet crumble under such strikes? This duo of attacks, heavy blows far inland and near the fray, shattered illusions of safety, leaving Kremlin leaders humiliated in their own backyard. But is this the start of a symphony of disruptions, or just the crescendo? Watch as operatives vanish into the fog, Russia's defenses teetering on the edge. Ukraine's rail sabotage has escalated rapidly, not a mere aftershock but a thunderous pattern over months. While HUR frames it as fresh beginnings, evidence suggests it's a relentless campaign. Back on October 21, another blast rocked Leningrad, tracks twisted and a freight train ablaze under a canopy of sparks and smoke. The metallic tang of scorched rail sticks to nostrils, engines groaning in agony before silencing. Russia spun tales of mere technical glitches, but the smoke betrayed sabotage, military cargo engulfed in vivid destruction. How long can Putin deny the ghost-like fingers of partisan groups strangling his empires? Betrayed from within, as Ukrainian forces claim locomotives across occupied lands, locomotives vital for his front lines crumble. Hang on the precipice, what hidden force amplifies these hits, and is North Korea's lifeline next? Suspended dread hangs heavy, as Russia's vulnerabilities loom larger. A massive explosion rocked the Leningrad region, damaging railway tracks and engulfing a freight train in flames. Reports confirmed the train was carrying military cargo, though Russian officials dismissed it as a technical glitch. The truth was far more alarming. Ukraine had struck again, sabotaging a critical rail link deep inside Russian territory. This attack wasn't an isolated incident. Alongside the devastating strike on the Trans-Siberian Railway, Ukrainian partisans launched a wave of sabotage operations across Russia and occupied zones. Imagine Putin's shock, his own homeland infiltrated by covert operatives dismantling vital infrastructure. Locomotives, once symbols of Russian might, were now targets, crippled one after another. These relentless assaults are not random acts but a calculated strategy designed to choke the Kremlin's war machine. The Trans-Siberian Railway strike stands out, not just for its scale but for what it represents. This isn't just a railway, it's the lifeline of Russia's military logistics. Stretching over 9,288 kilometers, more than 5,700 miles, it's the longest railway line on Earth. For centuries, it has been the backbone of Russian power, connecting Siberia's vast resources to the heart of the country. The former Russian Empire and the Soviet Union depended on it to move millions of tons of cargo, both civilian and military. Today, as Russia wages war in Ukraine, this single artery remains crucial. It's no exaggeration to call the Trans-Siberian Railway the aorta of Russia's logistics. When it falters, the entire system struggles to function. The recent sabotage exposed a glaring vulnerability. Despite its reputation as a military giant, Russia cannot fully protect its most critical infrastructure. What makes this strike even more shocking is its connection to North Korean weapons shipments. The freight train derailed near Sosnovka was carrying arms supplied by North Korea, one of Russia's key allies in sustaining its war effort. Ukraine's intelligence services revealed this, sending a clear message: Russia's supply lines are not invincible. The sound of twisted metal, the acrid smell of burning fuel, the eerie silence after the explosion, all these sensory details paint a vivid picture of a logistical artery severed. The Kremlin's inability to guard this vital route exposes cracks in its armor. How long can Russia sustain its war effort if these strikes continue? Will the Trans-Siberian Railway remain Russia's lifeline, or will it become a symbol of its unraveling? This is just the beginning. Ukraine's operatives are already planning their next moves, promising more disruptions to come. The war is no longer just fought on the front lines, it's a battle for control over the veins that keep Russia's war machine alive. The question now is, can Russia recover, or is this the start of a slow, inevitable collapse? Imagine Russia's Trans-Siberian Railway as the pulsing lifeline of its war machine, providing endless support for Putin's aggression against Ukraine. Picture the Kremlin's shock as Ukraine targets this very artery, exposing vulnerabilities that no mighty empire should have. How does a single derailment feel like a dagger to the heart of an invader? 284 characters, continue from where we left off. Russia's war relies on this railway as its core logistical vein. It's the aorta keeping everything flowing, and without it, long-distance transport crumbles under the strain. Taking it out of action is like severing a warrior's sword arm in the heat of battle. Flashback to 1916. Steel tracks gleamed under a vast Siberian sky, the hum of early steam engines echoing through frozen forests. The scent of coal smoke mixed with pine resin, while the cold metal rails vibrated under the weight of empire's ambitions, carrying dreams of conquest that now haunt Russia's present. But back to the present fury. This railway's history stretches back over a century, as the Moscow Times highlighted in a 2013 piece. At that moment, it handled 120 million tons of cargo yearly, a figure worth billions in currency, fueling Moscow's economy. Railway Pro, reporting in 2020, noted how vital items like ferrous metals, oil derivatives, and iron ore keep profits soaring. Yet, since Putin's 2022 invasion, those trains now haul weapons of destruction. Its significance demanded action in 2013, when Russia pledged $13.6 billion from its National Welfare Fund for upgrades, alongside other ventures. A direct rail link across Eurasia will become the main transportation corridor between Europe and Asia-Pacific, Putin declared. It'll supercharge Siberia and the Far East's growth. He wasn't exaggerating, this line has forever symbolized progress. Upgrades continued, as scholars Maria Kaziva and Ekaterina Bondarchuk detailed in their 2020 Northern Sustainable Development Forum paper. They projected it could move over 200 million tons annually by 2025, though Ukraine's war may have derailed those ambitions, shifting focus to survival. Ukraine's recent strike? It's a catastrophe for Putin, the worst possible blow amid his invasion. Delays might cost millions, even if just consumer goods clogged the tracks. But no, Ukraine's intelligence agency, HUR, confirmed the derailed freight carried something far deadlier. What brutal twist hides in the cargo, ready to humiliate countless Russian soldiers sent to die pointless deaths? Imagine the taste of smoke in the air as sabotage lights the fuse, and the screech of wheels grinding to a halt, sparking fears of isolation. 312 characters. We just uncovered how Ukraine's bold strike on Russia's Trans-Siberian Railway sabotaged more than just trains. It severed a lifeline of critical military supplies, including at least 148 North Korean KN-23 and KN-24 ballistic missiles by early 2025, with countless more likely sent since. Millions of artillery shells joined those deadly loads, flooding Putin's forces with foreign arms. Imagine feeling the cold steel of betrayal as your enemy's weapons glide silently across vast lands, unheard promises of alliance turning into thunderous threats. Has the so-called mighty Russia really sunk so low, begging from dictators while claiming self-sufficiency? This sabotage wasn't random, it was Ukraine's calculated scream to halt the torrent of North Korean arms fueling the endless grind of war. Smoke still lingers in the air, a acrid tang reminding everyone of explosions that echo deep into enemy territory. Ever since Putin's tanks rolled over the border, that relentless supply has plagued Ukraine like a shadow that refuses to fade. The sense of gunpowder and fear pervade the frontline trenches, where every boom of incoming shells stings like a phantom punch. Russia and North Korea? Allies for decades, tied by threads of shared isolation. But they formalized the military bond just a year and a half back, in June, with a pact echoing NATO's Article 5. Yet, twisted by Putin's design, it let him mask North Korean troops and weapons as legitimate aid if Ukraine dared strike back. Barely 2 months in, Ukraine stormed Russia's Kursk region. A counterpunch that sparked Putin's desperate plea for 10,000 North Korean soldiers. It humiliated him, exposing cracks in his facade. Does this man truly believe his war is noble, or is he just a puppet dancing on strings from Pyongyang? Though he pretends their partnership ignited only then, reality bites harder. The support flowed almost from the start, especially as his quick victory crumbled into brutal stalemate. The weight of failed expectations presses down like heavy boots on icy ground. The Guardian's April 2025 exposé peeled back layers, revealing North Korea as the dark supplier staining Russia's hands. A missile forged in North Korean factories obliterated 12 lives in Kyiv, its wake a shiver-inducing bellow that woke the world. Picture it, the sharp crack of impact, the ground trembling beneath, leaving behind a haze of dust and despair. President Zelensky's words cut through. Preliminary info shows Russians unleashing a North Korean-made ballistic missile. Confirm this, and it seals the criminal pact between Russia and Pyongyang, a deal dripping with blood for power. But that bombshell? Just the tip of a glacier melting under scrutiny. The air thickens with unspoken tensions, winds carrying whispers of more secrets. What depths of deceit lurk beneath this alliance, ready to shatter everything we think we know? Imagine this: what if Russia's unbreakable war machine is crumbling not from frontline battles, but from shadows striking 4,100 miles deep? A single explosion shatters the illusion of invincibility, derailing trains loaded with forbidden firepower from a distant ally. Russia's secrets are exposed, and the fallout could end the invasion. 347 characters. Russia has fought a grueling war against Ukraine for nearly 4 years. The Kremlin pushes a story of endless power. Missiles and artillery rain down without stop. They claim it's all their own strength. But that's a dangerous myth. Deep in Siberia's frozen wilds, a thunderous boom echoes through the night. Metal twists with a screech that pierces the icy air. Flames lick the tracks, smelling of scorched earth and betrayal. On November 14, Ukraine's bold strike hits the Trans-Siberian Railway near Sosnovka in Khabarovsk. That's over 4,000 miles from the front. Drones can't reach that far. Missiles? No way. So how? A clever sabotage, tied to Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, or HUR. The blast derails a freight train. Cargo grinds to a halt. Traffic jams up like a blocked vein. You might shrug. A late train? Big deal. But these aren't commuter rides. They're lifelines for Putin's campaign. Loaded with weapons from North Korea. HUR posts on Telegram, an explosion blocks the key rail artery. Used for supplies, especially from the DPRK. Russia's spies fail again. They can't guard their own heart. Ukraine whispers to Putin, "Your mighty empire? Full of holes." Footage leaks out. Eyes watched the endless tracks for weeks. Explosives cling to rails like hidden thorns. Operatives slip in unseen. Strike fast. Vanish. Now Russia stares at wreckage. Ukrainian agents lurk deeper than imagined. HUR warns, "We keep dismantling your logistics. More strikes coming." And they weren't bluffing. Just days later, on November 16, partisans hit again. In occupied Zaporizhia, flames erupt at a relay cabinet. Only 31 miles from the lines. Trains freeze mid-journey. This duo of blows screams one truth. Nowhere hides from Ukraine's reach. From Siberia's depths to occupied lands. Sabotage halts military flows. It's no new game. Back on October 21, an explosion rocks Leningrad's rails. Fire swallows a freight train, packed with war goods. Russia blames tech issues. We know better. Ukrainian hands at work. Betrayal stings Putin from within. Partisans across Russia and occupied zones cripple engines one by one. These aren't random hits. It's a pattern. A relentless strategy. Ukraine targets rails feeding the front. The Trans-Siberian? The crown jewel. Linked to North Korean arms. But why does that artery pulse so vital? Twist your view, this isn't just rails. It's Russia's lifeblood. Stretching 5,771 miles. The world's longest line. Since 1916, it's hauled empires across Siberia. Now, millions of tons yearly. Ferrous metals, oil, ore, and since the invasion, weapons. In 2013, Putin poured $13.6 billion into upgrades. Dreaming of Europe-Asia links. Boost for the Far East. Modernization races on. Aiming for 200 million tons by 2025. War pulls focus, but the line endures. Delays from one strike? Millions lost. If consumer goods. But this train? North Korean fire. HUR confirms it. Shells and missiles roll in. North Korea's shadow grows long. By early 2025, at least 148 KN-23 and KN-24 ballistic missiles shipped. Likely more since. Plus millions of shells. Reuters, an open source center, tracked 64 shipments over 20 months. That's 16,000 containers. All artillery bound for Ukraine. Ukraine estimates North Korea supplies 50% of Russia's shells. Maybe 70%. Entire units depend on them. A UN expert tells The Guardian, without Kim Jong-un, Putin couldn't sustain the fight. Strategically vital. No wonder Ukraine severs the link. Russia builds bridges to tighten ties. On October 29, 2024, news breaks. A new road over the Tuman River. First auto link to North Korea. Handles 300 vehicles daily. 2/3 trucks. Cargo floods in unchecked. Scale up? United 24 says the bridge and checkpoint could process 800 vehicles a day. Bypass third countries. Direct North Korean hardware to Russia. Putin smiles at the shortcut. But Ukraine's eyes watch. What if saboteurs cross that border next? The alliance cracks under pressure. Confirmation of DPRK missiles and strikes? Proof of their dark pact. Collusion runs deep. As rails burn and bridges rise, one question haunts: how long until Russia's supply chain snaps completely? The next explosion might be the breaking point. Could you imagine a bridge so crucial it could change the fate of a war? A bridge that might carry hundreds of military trucks daily, slipping past borders unnoticed, delivering weapons that fuel a brutal conflict thousands of miles away. This isn't fiction. It's happening right now, and it's shaking the very foundation of a global power struggle. Previously, we saw how Ukraine struck deep inside Russia, sabotaging the legendary Trans-Siberian Railway. That attack wasn't just a blow to a train line, it was a message that no place in Russia is truly safe. The railway, a lifeline stretching over 5,700 miles, carries vital cargo, including weapons from North Korea. But what if there's another route, even more critical, quietly enabling this deadly supply chain? A new bridge, the first direct road link between Russia and North Korea, is now operational. It's designed to handle 300 vehicles daily, mostly cargo trucks. But plans are already underway to expand this capacity to 800 vehicles per day. Imagine the sheer volume of military hardware that could flow through this artery, bypassing all third-party checkpoints. This bridge isn't just infrastructure, it's a lifeline for Russia's war effort, a secret highway for weapons that keep the conflict alive. Putin might see this as a clever move, especially after Ukraine's daring strike on the Trans-Siberian Railway. But the truth is far more unsettling. This bridge reveals a shift in power dynamics. Before the war, Russia was the dominant partner, using North Korea as a buffer and a source of cheap labor. Now, the roles have reversed. North Korea holds the cards, supplying Russia with ammunition and heavy weapons that Moscow desperately needs. Back in 2018, experts warned that Russia might become North Korea's last lifeline. Today, that warning has come true. North Korea is more crucial to Russia than even Iran or China. Russian analysts confirm that North Korean soldiers are disciplined and professional, but their combat skills initially lagged behind the demands of modern warfare. Still, their support is invaluable to Russia's faltering military campaign. So, what does this mean for the future? With Ukraine's sabotage operations growing bolder and Russia's reliance on North Korean supplies increasing, the war's logistics are under siege from multiple fronts. Can Russia maintain its grip when its supply lines are vulnerable and its allies hold the upper hand? The answer might lie in the next strike, the next explosion, the next daring act of sabotage. The war is no longer just fought on battlefields. It's a shadow war of sabotage, secret routes, and shifting alliances. And the bridge between Russia and North Korea? It's the new front line. What happens next could change everything. Imagine a war machine fueled not just by its own might, but by a fragile alliance stretching thousands of miles. What if the lifeline feeding that machine was suddenly severed? Could a single act of sabotage ripple through an empire's war effort, shaking its foundations? This is the story of how Ukraine struck deep into Russia's heartland, disrupting a secret supply chain that keeps the Kremlin's war alive. Previously, we learned that North Korea has been a crucial supplier of ammunition and heavy weapons to Russia. Though their soldiers initially lacked modern combat skills, they adapted quickly. But now, the balance of this uneasy partnership is shifting. Flashback, the cold wind bites sharply as a freight train rumbles along the vast expanse of the Trans-Siberian Railway. The rhythmic clatter of wheels on steel tracks echoes through the Siberian wilderness. Somewhere near Sosnovka, a small town in Russia's Khabarovsk region, a hidden hand prepares explosives. The scent of oil and metal hangs in the air, mingling with the faint smell of pine. Suddenly, a deafening blast shatters the silence. The ground trembles. Tracks twist and buckle. A freight train derails, its cargo scattered and its journey halted. This wasn't just any train. It was a vital artery carrying weapons from North Korea to fuel Russia's war in Ukraine. The explosion on November 13 was no accident. It was a carefully planned sabotage operation, orchestrated by Ukraine's intelligence agency, the main Directorate of Intelligence, known as HUR. The strike sent shockwaves over 4,100 miles away from the front lines, proving that nowhere in Russia is truly safe. Why does this matter? Because Russia's narrative of invincibility depends on the illusion of endless supplies and unbreakable logistics. The Kremlin wants the world to believe it's an unstoppable force, with missiles and artillery raining down relentlessly. But the truth is far more fragile. Russia's war effort leans heavily on allies like North Korea, whose weapons are transported along this very railway. HUR's statement was clear and cutting: Russia's security services failed to protect one of their most critical infrastructures. The Trans-Siberian Railway, the lifeblood of Russia's military logistics, was vulnerable. Ukraine's operatives found an unguarded stretch of track and struck with precision. The result? A massive delay in cargo movement, a derailment that temporarily paralyzed a key supply route. But this was only the beginning. Just days later, another attack hit a railway in the occupied Zaporizhia region, carried out by the pro-Ukrainian partisan group Arteche. They set fire to a relay cabinet, halting military trains mere miles from the front lines. Two attacks, one deep inside Russia and another within occupied territory, sending a clear message: Ukraine's reach is long, and its resolve unbreakable. The Trans-Siberian Railway is more than just a track. It's a symbol of Russian power, stretching nearly 5,800 miles from Moscow to the Pacific. Since 1916, it has been the backbone of Russia's economy and military logistics. It moves millions of tons of cargo annually: oil, metals, iron ore, and crucially, weapons. Putin himself invested billions to modernize this artery, hoping to boost Siberia's development and secure his war machine's supply lines. Yet, despite all this, Ukraine's sabotage exposed a glaring weakness. The delays caused by the derailment could cost Russia millions, but more importantly, they slow the flow of North Korean shells to the front. Without these shells, Russian artillery can't maintain its relentless pressure on Ukrainian defenses. Why is this supply so precarious? Because North Korea's stockpiles are dwindling. Reports reveal that Russia has received nearly $10 billion worth of arms from North Korea but paid only a fraction of that. This one-sided relationship is fraying. By late 2023, shipments from North Korea had plummeted, with none recorded in September and only a few in October. The reason? North Korea's reserves of Soviet-caliber shells are nearly exhausted. To make matters worse, about half of these shells fail to reach their targets due to poor quality. So, what happens when the well runs dry? Putin's war machine could grind to a halt, starved of the ammunition it desperately needs. Ukraine's strategy to target this supply chain is not just clever, it's potentially decisive. The question now is, how long can Russia sustain a war effort dependent on a dwindling, unreliable supply from a distant ally? And how many more trains will Ukraine stop before the Kremlin's grand illusion of invincibility crumbles? The battle for the Trans-Siberian Railway is far from over. Ukraine's saboteurs have sent a warning that echoes across continents: no supply line is safe. No fortress impenetrable. The war is being fought not just on the front lines, but deep inside the enemy's own territory, where every strike chips away at the foundation of a fading empire. What if the very lifeline fueling a massive war effort was crumbling from within? Imagine a secret alliance strained to its breaking point, where one partner's dwindling resources and growing demands threaten to collapse the entire operation. This is the hidden story behind Russia's reliance on North Korea and how Ukraine's relentless sabotage is pushing that fragile bond to the edge. Previously, we saw how North Korea's supply of Soviet-caliber shells to Russia has nearly dried up. Shipments stopped in September and barely trickled in during October. Half of those shells don't even reach the battlefield because they're so unreliable. This isn't just a supply problem, it's a ticking time bomb for Russia's war machine. Now, North Korea has seriously weakened itself to keep Russia's war going. But with Ukraine targeting the railways and trains that carry these scarce shells across Russia, the question is, how much longer can North Korea sustain this costly support? Russia isn't paying what it owes. It's losing shipments or rejecting faulty shells. Suddenly, North Korea holds more power over Putin than ever before. Does this mean the alliance will collapse? Not necessarily. But the more Ukraine disrupts this flow, the more likely North Korea will demand a higher price, far beyond the generous terms Putin currently enjoys. If that happens, Putin won't just mourn the loss of a single trainload of weapons. He could be forced to spend billions more just to secure the arms he desperately needs. Can Russia afford that? The war it launched is already draining the country's finances. The economy is spiraling downward. And the war machine Putin built is bleeding the nation dry. Every strike Ukraine makes against these supply lines tightens the noose around Russia's war effort. What happens next could change everything. Will Putin find a way to keep this fragile alliance alive? Or will Ukraine's strategy force Russia into a corner, where even its closest allies turn away? The stakes have never been higher, and the battle for control over these vital supplies is far from over.